This video is sponsored by Aquashine Exteriors, professional jet washing and cleaning services across Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, including Dorset, Hampshire and Wiltshire. Are you feeling it's time to get that driveway nice and shiny for when you come home? Or are you wanting to get that guttering tidied up and spotless again? They deliver this, plus much, much more. Please head into the description below where you'll find their details for their website, including the socials, Facebook and Instagram. You also need to find their before and after portfolio. You can also call them on 07503 998 088 for a free quotation. Don't wait till next week. Don't think you'll do it another day. Pick up the phone, give them a call, check them out. Good evening and welcome to Cherries Red Army, wherever you are in the world. We hope you're having a very, very good week as we prepare for the Cherries to take on Arsenal at the Emirates on Saturday. Yeah, another easy game. It's not going to be easy, is it really? Let's be honest, but we're going to crack out this preview. We've got two excellent guests. We'll get them on very, very soon. If you're new around here, please do subscribe to the channel. Also hit the like button. We'll set a minimum target on this video of 50 likes. Do support us in achieving that. And if you're watching us live right now on YouTube or Twitter, open the chat. Do let us know what you think throughout the evening. We'll show some comments on the screen, so let us know your thoughts. If you're watching this video back and you couldn't join us live, thank you very much. And do let us know your thoughts, of course, at the end in the comments. Right, Emirates Stadium is the venue on Saturday. It's top against second from bottom, and both teams are desperate for the points for very different reasons.
Cheeky one, square, and
Really looking forward to this evening. My first guest is journalist for Dorset Live, Dan Davis, and he has a new podcast out this week. Hello, Dan. How are you? Tell us more about the podcast.
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's been a little while, so yeah, glad to be back. So I won't spend too long on the podcast because in the grand scheme of this weekend, I don't think anyone's really too bothered. But yeah, just called Cherries Chat. It's run by myself and my colleague Andy Jones, who contributes for Dorset Live as well. And basically, we record every Monday. We'll stick it up probably every Tuesday, and just talk about the weekend's results. So performance, analyse certain aspects of the performance. And yeah, we don't. It's not really in our nature to hold back, to be honest. So if we see something, we'll say it, kind of thing. So yeah, looking forward to being opinionated and getting across my viewpoints for the rest of the season.
Absolutely love it. That's what we want to hear. My second guest is a YouTuber, Arsenal fan. He's got 150,000 subscribers. Go check him out. His details are in the description below. I'm sure he'll have content for this weekend. It's Babs. How are you, my friend?
Hello, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. And I'm very excited for the game. Obviously, reasons why. Title race is on, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, do you know what? Let's come straight to you, Babs, because I'd like to know what you think about your season so far. I'm sure you're very, very happy.
Yeah, very happy. Some people are very surprised to see where Arsenal are. I'm not quite. I mean, maybe a title race is a bit too soon, but I expected for Arsenal to be good this season, and we are good. And I think so. We saw towards the end of last season a team that was decimated with injuries, and I always said to myself, if Arsenal could sign the right players and have the right players available, the team can fly. And so those players have been available this season, and the signings of Jesus, Zinchenko and so forth have put Arsenal a serious team. But I think Mikel Arteta, I think he deserves his plaudits now, because last season I was getting a lot of abuse for supporting Mikel Arteta and before that. But you can always see that he's had a plan, and now you can see it more than ever.
Yeah, throughout this preview, we will break down the fixture and look at Arsenal in more detail, and they're definitely flying. Dan, a lot of us might have seen the documentary, The All or Nothing. I'm not sure all of us would have believed that Arteta would have got this team playing so well so quickly, when maybe a year ago, whenever it was, they were looking for him to leave the club. So massive turnaround very, very quickly as well.
Has been a huge turnaround. And yeah, fair play to him. I have to say, even from the start, I've always admired the football that Mikel Arteta has tried to play. So yeah, I mean, rapid turnaround, but they're deservedly top. It really does feel like every single time City drop points, Arsenal pick up 3 points and then move further ahead. And yeah, deservedly top. Be a really, really tricky game this weekend. I mean, I expect you've probably seen likened to Manchester City, you know, with the way that they sort of move, the combinations, the fluidity. It's some stuff that can really pick Bournemouth apart, to be honest. So we've seen it against City. We might see it again against Arsenal. But yeah, you have to applaud what Arteta's done. The signings have been shrewd. The players obviously love playing for him. You can see that in the documentary. When things weren't going well, there was a real belief and togetherness in that group, to be honest. And it's showing through the results and just the morale and the general mood among the fan base as well. It's been some turnarounds, but yeah, you have to congratulate him, and I fully expect them to go on and win the title, to be honest.
Picking teams apart. Well, earlier on in the season, under Scott Parker, I think it was our second home game of the season. It was Arsenal 3, Bournemouth 0. Babs, a very dominant performance from yourselves. It didn't take you long to take the lead. Jesus was very, very good in turning Senesi. Odegaard got on the score sheet. I think Saliba scored a worldie in the second half. 3-0 winners. Did you think even then that you're onto something special this season?
Yeah, I kind of knew from pre-season because I had seen a different Arsenal in terms of, for the first time in a while, everything seemed organised in terms of transfer strategies, in terms of the style of football we were playing. And I think Mikel Arteta, of course, we've seen it, inspiration from Pep Guardiola, and you can see that sometimes his players need time to adapt to his system. And now the likes of Martinelli and Saka have been there for a few years, they understand it fully. So I knew from pre-season that Arsenal were going to have a very strong season. And then when we beat Palace in the first game of the season, which obviously, it was all set up for Arsenal to fail. Let's not forget that. First game of the season, Friday night, like last year, against Brentford, against Crystal Palace at home, away from home, Selhurst Park, and Arsenal turned up then. So from that moment, I knew, okay, this team is serious. And with all due respect to Bournemouth away, we've had some tough games over the year. I think this year, I was more confident than ever. And so when we beat you 3-0, I wasn't sitting there going, wow. I was going, okay, you know what? We're a good team.
Some love in the chat for you there as well, Babs. Just thought I'd throw it out there nice and early. Yeah, Dan, I mean, I can remember being in the North Stand of that fixture earlier on in the season. I think it was Senesi's debut, and he got, as I said, rolled by Jesus. And I thought, hang on a minute, he's meant to be El Gladiator, and he didn't quite deal with that. But he needs a bedding in period coming in from the Dutch league. But it's one of those fixtures that sort of played out a few times this season where we've gone in comfortably down and out of football matches, and then we're just trying to show a little bit of heart later on in fixtures. And yeah, that sort of was the start of what's been replicated in a few other games.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, yeah, the alarm bells really did ring in that first half. I think Scott Parker post-match said, he was disappointed by a lack of grit. He basically also mentioned that he didn't really feel there was humility in his team. Obviously, that was one of the many sort of tearings he sort of directed at his squad before obviously he got the sack. So, yeah, I mean, you'd like to think sort of different manager, different kind of ideas trying to be imposed at this moment in time, that the same kind of results won't crop up. But unfortunately, it has been a recurring theme throughout Bournemouth season where, kind of collapse in the first half, don't really compete, don't get a foothold. Second half, there's a bit more of a fight. I don't know if they've, obviously probably been given a hammering at half time, and then they come out, have a go. By then it's too late and you're out of the game. Obviously, we saw it against Manchester City as well. So it's all well and good trying to establish yourself a foothold, but do it in the first half. Try and do it in the first half rather than try and bank on the second half. It just doesn't really work that way. But yeah, I mean, kind of first half, I distinctly remember being very underwhelmed by, the kind of lack of fight. Arsenal were just first, all the second balls, rebounds. Their goals were really well put together, don't get me wrong, but the defending, Senesi, that was a real trial by fire, to be honest. It was his first start, and I remember getting rolled by Jesus. It wasn't the only time. I remember him sort of getting spun a fair amount of times in that game, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like that's quite hard to. I think it got taken off at half time as well. So yeah, I think there was a switch to 4-3-3 in the second half too, which kind of improved things a little bit, but yeah, by then little too late, and another sort of chastening experience under Scott Parker early this season.
So Arsenal are looking very, very good this season. They're top of the league, 60 points. They had a little bit of a blip a few games ago. I thought the wheels might be coming off a little bit, Babs, but you're 3 games unbeaten now in the form guide. And last night you put aside Everton. It did take a while to get going, but it looked like once you scored the first goal, you just steamrolled through and won 4-0. And players like Saka and Martinelli look very dangerous. But do talk to us about that latest win for you last night, 4-0.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Some of the football in the second half was fantastic. And I think, in the first half, Everton made it a bit of a battle in the first 40 minutes. They tried to disrupt our rhythm. And, I don't know how defensive Bournemouth are. I don't know if you're more free-flowing football or whatever, but, Everton sit back in a deep block and they cause Arsenal some sort of problems in the first half. But, look, when you're a top team and you're trying to be a champion, you need to find a way. And, from the games against Brentford at Everton away from home, we kind of learnt from that. And to be fair, the game against City, I think Arsenal were pretty good. I think that's a game that Arsenal deserved to win, and we were unlucky with the mistakes that we made. So from that game onwards, Arsenal have been back to their best. And the change that Mikel Arteta has made, throwing in Trossard for Nketiah, has restored the fluidity in the final third. Arsenal at Bournemouth, for example, was so good because, you could see Jesus flying everywhere. He wasn't just playing as a centre forward. And whereas Nketiah is more of a number 9. So when you've got Trossard in there now with Martinelli, he's got a combination player there. And obviously on the right-hand side, you've got Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard. Arsenal are looking free-flowing again, and that's what I think some Arsenal fans are missing since the Gabriel Jesus injury. And that game last night in the second half, some of the football we were playing, the passes over the top, the players seem relaxed, and this is a tough moment, but despite of that, it seems like they're thriving.
And unlike the Man City team we played last week, where Pep Guardiola seems to rotate Babs, it looks like Mikel Arteta tries to keep a similar team. A lot of players that have played 24, 25 matches.
Yeah, Mikel Arteta is different in his own right. I think he's taken inspiration from Pep, but even in terms of the way Arsenal play, we are a lot more free flowing. Our players are allowed to enter different areas, and I think the prime example is Zinchenko yesterday. He's a left back playing in the right attacking midfield area. So Pep Guardiola is a lot more disciplined in terms of you have to stay in this area. But that's why Arsenal signed Gabriel Jesus, and he looked better in the Arsenal team than Man City because he's allowed to fly from area to area. And I think Arsenal are at their best when we play with playmakers. But you're right, Mikel Arteta kept the same team for 2 games in a row. I think we've kept the same team for most of the season. And, I think he's trying to just bring chemistry and connections. I think that's what it's all about. And we have to kind of look at Liverpool and how they beat City for a title when they had the same team week in, week out. You have to have that consistency, especially when the players are new to it all.
Dan, I was looking at this fixture last night thinking we could get a double whammy here. We could see Everton potentially do the double over at Arsenal, although it would have been a big ask. And then we would be on the end of that frustration from Arsenal on Saturday. So it's not going to quite play out like that. Your thoughts on that, what I've just said, but also Aaron Ramsdale, I think is the second best goalkeeper in the league, former AFC Bournemouth goalkeeper, 11 clean sheets, should be England's number 1. He will be very soon, I hope, and he's going to be a hard keeper to break down on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell he's going to be up for it on Saturday, definitely, against his old club. But to be fair, he's got a lot of respect for Bournemouth. There's a lot of humility to his character. I think, he's a great person. Great shot stopper, distribution is excellent. His command of his area is very, very good. There's not really one weakness he's got, to be honest, in his teams, in his game, I should say. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. Unfortunately, to win a game, you've got to try and put the ball past him. It's that simple. So, regardless of how good he is, it's down to Bournemouth to create enough chances to threaten, obviously, that goal. Just regarding the fixture itself, yeah, I mean, I think it was probably too much of an ask for Everton to do the business against Arsenal again. I mean, from the reverse fixture, we kind of saw like a blueprint of potentially how to frustrate them. I think they put 5 midfield and kind of went quite aggressively man-to-man in certain areas of the game, certain times, which maybe might be beneficial this weekend. But yeah, I mean, Arsenal just, every time they slightly drop off, they've got their backs against the wall a little bit, or people externally are saying, oh, they'll drop points at some point. They just don't. They just keep on rolling. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult this weekend. The fact that they have Ramsdale between the sticks won't help. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit later. But I think for me, it's very much Bournemouth do have strengths. It's whether or not they play to them this weekend to try and get a result.
Babs, Aaron said here, having only played last night with 2.5 days, 2.5 days in between games, dare we hope that Arsenal may rest some players on Saturday? I mean, I'm going to talk to you about your predicted 11 soon, but is that small gap between fixtures going to potentially give the Cherries a chance?
It could do, but to be fair, Arsenal did do it last week, the week before. We played Man City in a tougher game than Everton, and then played against Villa on the early kickoff on a Saturday. So they are used to it, and there may be some, I wouldn't say rotations, but there might be some changes. Like I believe because Bournemouth are a bit more, you're going to sit back. I can kind of see that, Milo. You're going to sit back like Everton will, trying to frustrate Arsenal, and I think you might see then Fabio Vieira start over Granit Xhaka, a more attack-minded midfielder on the left-hand side to give us the extra impetus going forwards. So there might be some rotations, but I think Mikel Arteta has got this habit of when his team's winning, he doesn't change it unless it has to be changed. And you might see maybe from the start Thomas Partey start the game instead of Jorginho, but I mean, if that's the concern, then I'm happy to have that.
Yeah, he seems to have settled as well, scoring at Villa Park. Dan, let's talk about Bournemouth. I mean, Baz just talked about potentially a low block. Well, go back to last weekend, we had Manchester City, never taken a point off them in the Premier League. Do you know what? I was in the stadium an hour beforehand and those lineups come out and everyone just went like, oh, here we go. 3 centre-backs. We haven't done that in the 2 positive results we had against Newcastle and Wolves. And we suddenly put this extra centre-back in and we're just inviting good teams and good players to break us down. And again, it didn't take them long. We were a couple of goals or more down at half time and we were just chasing shadows. And it was Manchester City 4, Bournemouth 1. And we even helped them score a few.
Yeah, I mean, that was the main issue, I think, regardless of any sort of structural issues or, selection problems. I feel like Bournemouth pretty much gave them 3 goals. I mean, yeah, definitely 3. Yeah, I mean, it was another one of those afternoons at the office where as soon as the team news comes out, you're like, oh, yeah, that's not what I expected. I fully expected O'Neill to go back to sort of the 2 banks of 4 instead. Like you see on the graphic there, Traore out on the left instead. Solanke was very isolated. It was just, I didn't really like it from the start, to be honest. I feel like City dropped points or were held to draws recently because, their opponents actually kind of looked to get on the front foot just a little bit in the right moments. Like Forest, for example. Admittedly, City absolutely battered their door down, but Forest, they were stubborn. They hung in there. They took their chance when it mattered. But for Bournemouth, I just don't see that clinical edge, to be honest. So, yeah, that combined with the almost willingness to sort of, match their front 5 with 5 defenders and try and go about it that way. It just didn't work horribly. And I think what would have annoyed the fans the most, and O'Neill as well, he obviously would have looked at this week, is how cheap those goals were. Like in the Premier League against one of the best teams in the Premier League, one of the best teams in the world, you cannot do that. Like the marking at times was abysmal. I think Jordan Zamora, as bright as he was going forward, very suspect defensively in a 5, I have to say. Got caught out quite a few times, and like the player in front of him, normally Foden, found it so easy to get goal side and kind of just like wreak havoc in that half space. So that was frustrating. And yeah, I mean, even some of the work from the central defenders, it was just Bournemouth just got ground down, and it was always going to give eventually. And conceded 4 goals. I think got to half time, and my first thought was, don't concede any more for goal difference, because that's already a really grim picture. Yeah. But that might come in handy at the end of the season. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully some harsh lessons have been learned, and we'll see if they're applied this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, De Bruyne was on the bench, but we still were playing through balls to Phil Foden to put away. And I know that Arsenal lost in one of their few matches against Manchester City. And Babs, I think you may have helped Man City in that fixture, if I can recall, score a goal or 2. But as Bournemouth fans, we never have much belief when we try and put a bank of 5 or play 3 centre-backs. In fact, we've only got away with it once this season against Aston Villa on the opening day when they were managed by Steven Gerrard. When you see a team that just try and put a bank of 5 or a bank of 4, and you've got that talent, for me, you're just going to break them down at some point. You're just too good. So, I mean, it's just asking you, break us down, but you'll do it eventually.
No, we will. And I think more importantly, it's also what threats do you have in the counter-attack? Because obviously, sometimes you can overcompensate. You might go for it and you might have a player that can kill us on the counter-attack. Now, against Brentford, they had players like Tony and so forth, and they could kill us on counter-attack. I think Brentford are the lowest in terms of big chances created. Bournemouth are the lowest in terms of big chances created, in terms of expected goals. So you don't really have that same level of attack going forwards. So yeah, if you play a back 5 and you're inviting pressure onto yourselves, Arsenal will break you down like they did against Everton, who I think, with Sean Dyche have more organisation, but even Brentford Brentford will open up eventually with Saka. You know, when you got top players and you pose them a question in terms of can you beat us attacking wise, they're going to find a way. But if you're going to ask questions of Arsenal's defense, which has not been as good recently, then maybe. But as I said, your attack hasn't really clicked this season.
Yeah, because I think at home at the Emirates, am I right in thinking you've only kept a clean sheet maybe 3 times?
Yeah, a majority of our clean sheets have come away from home. I think we've kept the most in the league there, like 8, I think, and the rest of them out of the 11, I think you got 3 at home. So yeah, at home we concede goals, so we are vulnerable at home, and it's because what we do is we go ultra attacking. We really go on to teams trying to dominate the game, and therefore there's a lot of space behind. So it's all over to the Bournemouth attackers, isn't it? How are you going to counter attack on Arsenal, and can you be decisive? Because you will get an opportunity. Arsenal concede chances at home. It's happened all season, and for us to win a title, that needs to change. Now, obviously, our first clean sheet at home against Everton's a good sign, and Ramsdale was on fire as well. So hopefully, he can keep back-to-back clean sheets. Because if you can do, then Arsenal, there's very few things we need to add to our game to go and win a title, and that's one of the final few steps we need to take.
There's some really good videos out there on YouTube. I actually saw one the other day with Tifo Football. Don't know if you've seen this, Babs, but Dan, I want to tell you about this, that Arsenal have only conceded 1 goal in the first 15 minutes of games. I think that's all season, home and away. And they're really clinical just after half time. They score a majority of their goals between 45 and 60 minutes. So although I've talked about earlier about Bournemouth going into these fixtures and being out of games at half time, if we are in this fixture on Saturday, we need to be really alert straight after half time.
It's a big if. It really is.
It's a big one.
A big if. I mean, it's possible. There have been occasions this season where Bournemouth have actually defended very well in and around their box and managed to hang on to game. Unfortunately, not against the best teams in the Premier League, which is obviously where that would come in handy this weekend. So, yeah, I mean, we've seen examples. They can do it. You just don't want to soak up too much pressure. Try and find a balance between, sit in, stay compact when you need to, but then when you transition, when you get the ball into those wide areas is how you use it then. Annoyingly, we haven't had too much joy in recent weeks from that aspect, to be honest. So that has to be massively worked on this week, and hopefully it has been. So you get to half time. If you're still in the game, like you say, there's that deadly period after where obviously whatever Arteta has said or the players have said to each other in the dressing room really comes into play, really. And I mean, case in point against City, I think it wasn't long after the restart that Chris Mepham ended up accidentally scoring an own goal against City. So it just goes to show that you have to be 100% on it at all times. And for me, that's not quite a balance that I've seen from Bournemouth much this season. So, yeah, it doesn't bode particularly well for this weekend.
Is it that obvious, Babs, that Arteta has this blocks in games where he just allows them just to go for 10-15 minutes and burst lots of energy into it?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the game state. So I've seen the video as well, and I think it showed that Arsenal are very strong in the first opening 15-20 minutes, and also, as you said, in the start of the second half. But also in terms of the final moments, I think we've not conceded. We conceded 1 goal all season in past, I think, the 70th minute. So even in terms of closing games, Arsenal are strong. I think the game plan always is, blow teams out of the water, and then you don't have to use as much energy. You can kind of sit back, and Arsenal are a very well organised team as well as a team that can attack. So I think that's the idea is, and especially after Mikel Arteta has his team talks. So sometimes in a game you might have a break, player might be injured or whatever. The moment the players go over to the manager and they come back, they seem stronger. They seem like they have these extra instructions to do what they need to do. So yeah, it's all about the plan. And this season, in most games, it's worked. But Arsenal can do different game states. So if you are holding on, Arsenal will they'll ramp the pressure up in later moments as well. But so far this season, it's kind of been a similar pattern of Arsenal either start very well or start the second half very well, and in those moments the games will be finished.
And if you're going to win the league this year, and if Bournemouth are going to try and get a result, they've got to stop these players, Bavs, trying to do what they do best at the weekend. Those numbers are ridiculous. I mean, you must be a happy man. I mean, as much as I'm trying to get Bournemouth out the relegation zone, I mean, yeah, you're right up there at the top.
Yeah, it is beautiful because I've seen all three of these players like from the start of their journeys at Arsenal and go from players that weren't seen as, the next big things and overrated, some people said, and now look at them, 10 goals, 11 goals, 9 goals. This is what Arsenal are, and this is why I actually do believe we are one of, if not the favourite to win a title now, is because we are different to Man City because we've got more goal scoring options. Yeah, they got Erling Haaland, yes, he's a robot, but he's their main guy, whereas Arsenal have all these different threats. So if you're Bournemouth, who you marking? Is it Martinelli? Because Trossard's going to have space then. Is it going to be Saka? Because then Odegaard will have space. And we've got options off the bench as well. I think this is what Mikel Arteta wants. It's a team full of goal scorers, of different goal scoring threats. And those three players are just a few of them. Even our centre-backs have been scoring goals. As you saw at Bournemouth with Saliba. He can bang winners out from outside the box. It's all over the pitch. It's a complete team. And that's why it's been so beautiful to watch.
Dan, I'm looking forward to this fixture. I'm going to the game. I've been to the Emirates a few times. I know we've never got a point there, I don't think, but I've enjoyed the games there. But I just look at some of those stats and I think, what have we got to do on Saturday to try and disrupt that? Do we just break the game down? Do we make some silly fouls without giving away yellow cards? Do we somehow just break the rhythm of Martinelli and Saka? I mean, those numbers, and that's not including what Trossard's done so quickly in his transfer to them. And yeah, what can Bournemouth do to stop that?
I mean, defend well is kind of the bottom line, really. It's going to be tricky because, like we've just seen from that graphic there, they've got many players that are capable of scoring goals, providing assists, or even if you're just smashing a low cross into the box. And yeah, like we've just touched on, that they have threats across the whole pitch. I still remember Saliba's goal at the Vitality, to be honest. It was an absolute thunderbolt, wasn't it, from the edge of the box? And yeah, just when moments like that go in, when strikes like that go in, you just feel that Arsenal are different this season. They really, really are. They're a real threat across the whole team. So it's a lot for Bournemouth to keep track of. It's not as if there's one specific threat that you kind of have to cover off. It's all of them. So to try and basically get around that is, you just have to be stubborn. You've got to try and slow the game down. I think we saw that quite a lot at Wolverhampton Wanderers, to be honest. Quite a grim watch at times because Bournemouth are very good at slowing play down, spending ages taking throw-ins, that kind of stuff. So I think the Senesi was like slap the ball out of one of their players' hands for a throw-in. Just little moments like that, just to kind of get a breather, get a foothold. Moments are really, really crucial against the best teams in the Premier League. And then once you've kind of established that foothold, then it's about just defend well, keep hold of your men. Clear crosses, try and don't make sure you're not all pushed in at the same. You have to break out. It's that simple. So, I mean, in my opinion, and it's probably doesn't exactly work like this in the Premier League, but I think attack is sometimes the best form of defense. Yeah. So very much if you can prove that you pose much more of a threat than Bournemouth have done in recent weeks, this weekend gives Arsenal a bit more to think about. They can't really throw as many bodies forward as maybe they would normally do. And that in itself obviously lends Bournemouth a bit more of a advantage.
And that is in the DNA of the Cherries, is to sort of attack, to sort of be the best form of defence, as you've said. And I think that Bournemouth fans, if we did have a little bit of a go, if we did push Arsenal back at times, if we did counter when Zinchenko's out of position and we did score a goal, I think we would accept that we might lose this fixture 3-1, 4-1. It's when we don't really have a go and we just try and build a wall and we just get broken down and the whole thing just seems pointless, like it was against Manchester City. Something that Bournemouth have got to do at the weekend, haven't done it really all season, and that's pick up a win against the top teams. We've only got draws against Brentford, Newcastle twice and Fulham. And as you'll see there, Babs, all losses against the top teams. Only us and Palace have struggled to snatch a win off one of the big teams like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it will be quite a time to get an upset, wouldn't it? But yeah, listen, I mean, some of those games you cause issues. I mean, in the game against Spurs, you were up, I think, wasn't it 3-2 or was it 3-1? I'm not quite sure.
We were 2-0 up and lost 3-2.
Yeah, 2-0 up. So there you go. So you cause issues, but then again, Spurs and Arsenal are in a different category right now, thankfully. But listen, it's a matter of you've got nothing to lose in this game. I would say, I know you want the 3 points and it'll be amazing, but if you sit back, Arsenal will break you down. So you've just got to go for our vulnerabilities, which is our defence right now. And it's not even that vulnerable, to be honest, but it's something that it can be get at. And we've seen it with Everton recently as well. They had some chances in that game. You need to just go for it. You need to kind of give us something to think about, because right now I'm expecting a standard win, because I expect for Bournemouth to come back and sit back. So maybe surprise Arsenal, surprise Mikel Arteta and go, listen, you know what? This is what you thought we were going to play and this is how we're actually going to play. And maybe that gives them something to think about during the game. But right now, I'm sorry to all Bournemouth fans. It's looking a bit bleak for this game, but I really hope you guys do stay up. I can't lie. I like Bournemouth as a club. Not the days where we used to go to your ground and struggle, but I just like it's a lovely stadium. It's a lovely place, lovely fan base. So listen, nothing but love. But on Saturday, if you just give her 3 points, we'll take it nicely. Keep moving.
Well, Bavs, who is going to be in that team for Saturday then? Now, this is a predicted 11 from Football Fantasy Scout. This looks pretty similar to what you played last night. We've talked about potentially Jorginho. I don't know if Jesus is far away, but this is what they've gone for. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's pretty spot on. I think Partey is going to start because he was fantastic against, in the last game. And then obviously in terms of Xhaka, I think you might have Fabio Vieira there. And Mikel Arteta keeps saying as well, dropping little hints that Vieira is close to starting. And I'm just thinking if there's a game at home against Bournemouth, who of course are fighting relegation, who are going to be sitting back potentially, that might be a game for Fabio Vieira. But as I said, Mikel Arteta doesn't like to change teams that are winning. But if that team starts, I expect the 3 points.
Do check out Bav's video that I think he put out today, 5 things he learned from last night. And Dan, he spoke about Zinchenko really coming out of that left-back position even further than he's probably seen him all season. I just wonder if we can counteract that position with the likes of Utara, who's got pace.
Yeah, I think that will probably be the game plan. I think if you're looking at Arsenal and trying to find any glaring weaknesses, there just aren't any. So the movement from Zinchenko, where he does invert, drift inside and kind of try and overload the centre of the park, that frees up space in that channel. So it's about how you use it. It's about how you move through the thirds to then kind of try and exploit that space. I think that's also been an issue, is actually trying to get the ball to the forward player sometimes with enough speed to make Arsenal backpedal. So yeah, I think that's when I sort of looked at this weekend and try and find ways that Bournemouth can kind of impose themselves is mainly, I think that kind of area is movement in behind, making sure that the wingers are fed with enough. I mean, it's kind of a staple of football, and Arteta where he likes his wingers to kind of receive like diagonally kind of thing. So angles like that, I think for Bournemouth that could be quite handy. Is just making sure that when the wide players pick up the ball, their first thought is they're able to sort of, they're already facing towards the box. It sounds really, really simple, but I just think in those moments it's about being clinical and making sure that the passes are right and the crosses are okay. So just it's little details like that I feel like if there is that space, and there will be, Bournemouth can try and impose themselves a little bit.
What will be the Bournemouth team for the predicted 11? Maybe shock them with 2 up top with Moore and Solanke. Well, I'm not sure, Dan, if this is going to be the predicted 11, but this is in partnership with Pitch Football. You might see this on Instagram or Twitter tomorrow, so do give it a like if you see it and share it. It might be, Dan, just what I want to see, but I've gone for this starting predicted 11 with a back 4, hopefully, of Adam Smith, Stevens, Senesi, Samora, Lerma, Rothwell to start to maybe pack the centre midfield out, Utara off the right, Billing more higher up, Traore off the left, and Solanke. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those players are absolutely going to start. So I do think O'Neill will go to a back 4. I think that'll be the back 4 we see. I do have to say, I think Smith and Zamora both do struggle when they're asked to play as wing back. So I think play to their strengths a little bit more because they'll be crucial this weekend. I do feel like, yeah, we'll see something along the lines of a 4-4-1-1. I think it will be Traore in behind Dom. I think we might see Anthony out on the left. And I think we might see Phil again in that kind of 2 alongside Jeff. So yeah, I'd maybe make a couple of changes to that. That's just my kind of gut instinct in terms of injuries and the state of play. So we'll find out a bit more tomorrow. But yeah, I think most of that will be the team we see.
Someone else that potentially could come into that team, Babs, is Jadon Anthony, who's got a little bit of history with Arsenal when he was a youth player. He's actually had a pretty good season. He was in and out at the start, but he then found himself playing regularly since we came back from the World Cup. He did get dropped last week to bring in the extra centre-back, but I know that Jadon Anthony's probably going to be well up for starting this game at the Emirates.
Yeah, I think he is a threat in terms of ball carrying. I think he's one of the best dribblers in the league, isn't he? So listen, you've got some threats. I'm not trying to say you've got no threats whatsoever. Solanke needs a big game as well because in terms of our centre backs, they're very aggressive, which also leaves a lot of space in behind. I'm not sure how far Solanke is, but if he's good in the channels and stuff, that can cause Arsenal issues. We've seen it with Ivan Toney recently. I think if you're trying to get a result at Arsenal, you use the Brentford example of overload the midfield and try to take you in the counter attack. And that's the best way to play against us right now. Because if you try to overload defensively, our front three will find a way. But in terms of midfield, if you start Granit Xhaka, for example, you can surround him. He's not as agile as Martin Odegaard or able to turn like Martin Odegaard. So there are some weaknesses, I'd say. Not weaknesses, but areas that you can attack Arsenal as well. And you are right in terms of Zinchenko coming forwards into midfield. He will be all over the place. And there will be space behind that as well. But you've got to beat the first phase, though. Arsenal are a tremendous team in terms of counter pressing and winning the ball back in the final third. So it's all about being calm and composed and not making any mistakes. Because if you guys make any sort of mistake, Arsenal will pounce. And I think I've seen that you've conceded the most penalties this season in the league with Forest joint. And, I know Arsenal don't normally get penalties at the Emirates, but, if you concede any sort of silly goals, then Arsenal will punish you.
You don't get any penalties at the Emirates. We don't get any penalties, full stop, Babs. We got absolutely none. So you got more than us. You knew this was going to happen, Dan. I'm prepared for a no comment. Want a quick fire presser right here? Fredericks for Smith?
I'd be surprised.
Yeah, me too. Any news on Tav?
We'll get an update tomorrow. Not sure on the time frame. Last we heard, O'Neill said the club are hopeful it's not too serious. It's his other hamstring. There would have been checks during the week. Hopefully there'll now be a bit of a clearer extent. The issue is, and I fully understand why they do it, is the club don't like being particularly transparent on timeframes specifically for players, because obviously that keeps the other clubs guessing as to whether or not they'll play or not. But hopefully it's not as bad as initially feared at Wolves. We'll see.
Loving the preview, and it's getting to that moment where we're going to get some score predictions from you in the chat, from the people watching live. We're going to get a score prediction from Dan and Babs. But before that, smash the like button on this video, please. Big game this weekend for the Cherries, but there are plenty other fixtures going on in the Premier League. Babs might have his eye on another fixture before our one at 3:00. Other games going on in the Premier League, but you put your score prediction in the chat. This is your 1 minute warning. Manchester City take on Newcastle in the early kickoff at 12:30. Chelsea take on Leeds, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Brighton, West Ham, Wolves, Tottenham, Southampton, Leicester, Nottingham Forest, Everton, Liverpool, Manchester United and Brentford. Fulham. Babs, straight to you. Manchester City versus Newcastle before our 3:00 kickoff.
I really think, and I love Newcastle, but I really think that the best we can hope for there is a draw. Just because after the cup final they'll be deflated. It might not be the case, and they might be up for it more than ever, just to show themselves, okay, we've missed out on the trophy. Let's try and get Champions League football. But if Newcastle can stay solid defensively and not make any mistakes, is Nick Pope available? Or is he still red carded? I think he might have got a straight red against. So I don't know, man. But I'm hoping for a draw. I'm gonna say 1-1, but I kind of expect for City to win that.
It was a good week for us, really, Dan, with regards to results. I know some were in the FA Cup, but we saw Leeds lose, Southampton lost to Grimsby, Everton lost last night at the Emirates. I think Wolves lost to Liverpool. I mean, it was very, very good to deflate some of the confidence and some of the fixtures this weekend.
You'd like to think so, because that's kind of the one thing that's keeping Bournemouth alive at the moment is teams aren't managing to run away from the bottom three, which is good. It keeps Bournemouth within touch of them. Yeah, I mean, Leeds... yet to they look better, I have to say, under Javi Gracia, but again, questions about whether or not they can actually piece together a run of form. Personally, I don't believe so. Everton as well obviously got battered. I think they just don't really have a lot of goals in that team. So results that look promising on paper. Unfortunately, if one of them, they get a point or a win at the weekend, the Bournemouth lose, then the table it looks quite grim at the moment. But I do fear for how it may look at the end of the weekend. Definitely
appreciate everyone in the chat. Please do hit the like button on this video. And who do I go to first? Dan, I'm going to go straight to you. Actually, I normally go first, but it's going to be Arsenal Bournemouth. And Bournemouth really need to start picking up points against teams they're not expected to beat. We can't rely on trying to beat teams in and around us, because we've not even done that either. What is your score prediction for this weekend?
So you put me on the spot, and I'm fully prepared for everyone to hate me, and I fully understand why. I think it might be quite a comfortable 2-0 Arsenal win, to be honest. I would love there so badly to be a surprise, but just feel like, yeah, Arsenal really found their stride. They're covering off threats, you know, even if they're sort of pressured or not, they're finding ways to win games, and quite handsomely as well. So, yeah, I do feel like, and it's definitely not, you know, another free hit. I didn't believe that was the case for City either. It's a really important game. And but yeah, unfortunately, I'm saying a 2-0 defeat, I think.
2-0 defeat from Dan, but that is fair enough. We've got Matthew Gale saying, I love both clubs. I really hope for a 2-2 draw. That feels like a heart prediction. Chris Hubble's going for an absolute smashing 3-3 at the Emirates. I mean, 3 goals at the Emirates. That would be nice. Cameron's going for a optimistic 1-1, and so is Paul going for a 1-1. Stephen Dyer's going for a sneaky 1-0. It's the Premier League. Anything can happen. Let's stop in the chat there, Bavs. Anything can happen. A couple of positive results in there, but this is a Bournemouth channel, bearing in mind. What's your prediction for Saturday?
3-0 Arsenal.
3-0. Straight, they've got some goal scorers. I mean, they're going to improve their numbers even more.
I don't know. They just keep play. I want Odegaard to score to get his 10th goal. I want Trossard to score as well. And yeah, we'll take another Martinelli or Saka goal. So yeah, I'm going 3-0. It might not be as easy as that. It might be one of those games where once we break through once, we break through again after that. But if you can see the early goal, then it will be comfortable for Arsenal.
Yeah, that's my big fear. Aaron's going for 3-1, unfortunately, to Arsenal. Mark Singleton also going for the 3-1 to Arsenal. Alan's going for a hopefully 2-2. And Jean is also going to 3-1 to the Arsenal. So what is my score prediction then? A couple of losses in there for the Cherries. My heart is always optimistic that we can get something. I think it's really important that we score the first goal. It's a generic thing to say, but it really is. And I think, can we try and do something that a lot of teams haven't done and score early and just put a bit of a shock into Arsenal? But I do agree with a lot of the chat. I think I'm going to agree with you guys. I think it is going to be an Arsenal win. They are looking very strong this season. They don't look like they're going to throw this league away without a fight. So probably a 2-1 or 3-1. But I'm chucking a goal in, guys, just because I'm going to the Emirates and I want to see the Cherries score. But it is probably likely to be an Arsenal win. And that would be fair enough. But I just want to see the Cherries give it a right good game. And James has gone for potentially a 2-1 to AFC Bournemouth by the look of it. Real threat on the counter. Need to approach this game in the right way. Thank you to everyone that's joined us and got involved in the interactive chat. Do hit the like button. I do want to put a special mention out to our monthly members. Thank you for your contribution towards the channel so we can do these streams and the content that we provide for you throughout the week. More content to come for this fixture. I'll be there. A vlog will come out on the Sunday and we'll see what happens inside the Emirates. Now, Babs, thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy. Check out his content. Details are in the description. Check out his YouTube. Go and subscribe to his 150,000 YouTube channel. Last question for you, man. Going to win the league?
Hopefully, man. Listen, it's too soon, man. I've not been here before or at least not for a long time. So I need to take it step by step. But yeah, fingers crossed, man. We can do it. Hopefully you guys stay up as well. You know, end of the season, we're both celebrating.
Have you got like a really tough run in at the end?
Yeah. That's why I'm fit. We got Liverpool away, got City away, got Forest away before the I think a penultimate game of the season. So it's not easy, but it's never easy if you win a title. So you're gonna have to get used to it.
Yeah, Dan, it's going to come down to the crunch games at St Mary's. We know we've got big games at home that we need to put right from the Leeds fixture earlier on in the season. We know that these games are always going to be tough. As I said earlier on, we need to pick up something in these fixtures. We've got Liverpool next week as well. Can the Cherries stay up, or is that too soon to ask you as well?
I would obviously love them to. I really would. I have to admit, I'm worrying. I feel like if they picked up points against the teams in and around them, you maybe say that these games, you know what, if you don't get anything, it's okay. If you get a point, it's just a bonus. But actually, I think every game is of equal importance now. And that's just because of a failure to find any kind of consistency or form or pick up enough points. And yeah, I do worry. I feel like the transfers are coming in January. They've made an impact, but I don't see enough goals in the team. I see some really simple mistakes from both individuals and also structurally. And yeah, I wrote about it a little while ago now, just about how there's kind of this sort of quite a grim sense of drift towards the end of the season. And yeah, I just hope that they can find a result that turns it around. I really do. And obviously this weekend, what an occasion it would be to do that. But yeah, I'm worrying. I'm not going to point blank say, no, that's it, they're going down, because it's the Premier League. Anything can happen. But they need to start picking up points and fast. So this weekend, please, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Whilst it's mathematically still there, we'll keep believing. Dan, thank you very much. We'll catch up with you again in the season.
Thank you very much. Yeah, cheers for having me on. If anyone sees me around the ground on Saturday, please feel free to say hello. And yeah, looking forward to coming back on. Hopefully the picture's a bit rosier next time I'm on later this season. Thank you.
If I see you around, I'll get you on the blog, 100%. Babs, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your season. Good luck after Saturday, but thank you for your time. Really, really good input on this preview. Thank you.
No worries, man. Thank you. Appreciate the invite, man.
Thank you to everyone who's watched this video, whether you watched it live or you watched it back. You, the fans, thank you very much. And do let us know your thoughts in the comments. But that's your match preview for Arsenal versus Bournemouth on Saturday. It is the Premier League. It is football. It's going to be a tough ask, but you never know. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you at the Emirates, and we'll get the content for you this weekend. From here, from me, Dan and Babs, we'll see you soon. Up Cherries!